we're calling 2026 the year of optimization. It is the year of the best businesses standing out and separating from the pack.
Welcome to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping overwhelmed outdoor living professionals, landscapers, and hardscapers just like you increase your closing rate to over 75% without doubling your workload so you can build a seven-figure business that doesn't need you. I'm your host, Joshua Gillow. Let's dig in. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Sales Made Simple podcast. This is Joshua Gillow, and today we have Greg Crabtree on. And we like to bring Greg back here about every quarter to give us a sense of where the world's going economically, what he's seeing. He's got this 100-company model, and he monitors companies from all over the place, and he sees trends. And what we really need to know as business owners is what's coming. Like, where's the, not skating to where the puck is, but where's it going? And if we can align ourselves with that, with the knowledge of people who are watching this that are much smarter than we are when it comes to economic forecasting, we can then have a much better chance of winning in this game called business. So Greg, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I always love to visit.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love having you on here. You're like our crystal ball in the industry to take a look at what's going on. And so specifically for the home service professionals out there,
Yeah.
we're landscapers, hardscapers, not the living professionals, but we're kind of lumped in around with, from a homeowner's perspective of
Right.
discretionary, spending. And I'm curious your thoughts right now on which the big road right now with economy and discretionary spending, and what should we be thinking about as contractors right now in navigating 2026?
Yeah, so let's do a level set of the bigger picture of the economy, and then I'll come down to the home sector. So the bigger picture is, from what we're seeing, is our 100-company model is showing revenue growth year over year. But when you have revenue growth, you have to ask three questions. Where did that growth come from? Did I raise my prices? Did my market grow? Or did I take business away from my weaker competitors? And and we touch this is the 100-company models, 1.3 billion of revenue all over the U.S., all different industries. So it's a blend, but we touch this data every month with our consulting team. So we're intimate with these companies of knowing what's going on. And I can tell you, unless you're dealing with AI data centers, you just don't really have a growing market. Now, we have companies that are growing, but they're growing in market share, because we're seeing this since January of 21, we're seeing this unusual cost occurrence that I used to say, don't worry about it. And I've got to now tell everybody to worry about it. And it's called non-labor operating expenses. And so the first thing I want to highlight for your audience is, yes, you've got to deal with this snake with 1,000 heads, and you've got to sequentially chop off every head every time that it pops up, because we're seeing just this unusual continual inflationary number in those non-labor OPEX. And you've really got to be a much more careful cost manager of the general operating cost, because of the inflationary aspect. And we actually believe in our 100-company model, we've hit on the perfect basket of goods and services in those non-labor OPEX that is the representation of what we think is true inflation. And right now, I would say that number is 7.5%, 8% year over year still.
Got it.
And so, yeah, one thing is 2 or 3%, one thing didn't change, but one went up 20. And the accumulation of all those things, and the ones that are going up is anything that requires service. And even though that we're in a softer labor market than we've had in probably 20 years, the cost of good labor is still expensive, and it continues to rise in that process. And so when you look at the overall economy, I would say we're probably flat to negative 1% GDP. Now, that's not horrible. It didn't go to zero. We're not in a recession. I don't even think the true concepts of recession, just set those aside. Just understand, is the market growing or not? And then, do I have opportunities of being the best performer in my market? If I'm the best performer in my market, I'm loving this situation, because I'm now going to get rewarded for being the best business. In the last 20 years, you didn't get rewarded by being the best business, because the Yahoo that just hung their shingle out and was available because you were booked up, got in there and didn't do a great job, but they made more profit than you did because they did a half-ass job and got away with it. And you're trying to run a great business and you've got the cost of running a great business and you made
Mhm.
good profit, but they actually made more profit than you did being a bad business. That that swamp's been drained and we see all the stumps. And now the best competitors, this is the market you want because you're going to clean up. And you're going to see probably 20 to 30% of the competitors in most of the industries disappear. Even if I do see a good forecast of stable demand for, your industry of home services and home improvements and all those kind of things. That is one of the more stable sectors that we see of our clients that are in that industry. And there's a couple of reasons I'll talk about in a second. But at the end of the day, we're calling 2026 the year of optimization. It is the year of the best businesses standing out and separating from the pack and finding the market that they want to do. But it doesn't mean every sale is good. You want to understand, I hear from my contractors all the time of the customers from hell that their eyes were bigger than their pocketbook. Those are the contracts that eat you alive because they don't pay, they want to negotiate, and you're held back from doing your best work because they really wanted something that they couldn't afford. And so
Mhm.
you really have to hone in on being very selective, but there's enough of the marketplace that has money and has capability, that you should be able to find those kind of things. But the forward-looking economy is we have a flat to declining total population because the border's closed, flat to declining total workforce because the border's closed. How do you have a growing economy? And you can create more output with AI automation. And AI and automation is mostly in the back office realm right now. It's
Mhm.
starting to creep out into the direct labor realm to some degrees. The biggest hit on direct labor in automation is going to be when the robots show up, and we'll see the policy decisions that get made. I think if the government's paying attention, they will probably find ways to restrict the robots that's coming from China that are like $5,900 that can do
Mhm.
basic tasks, very simply. That's going to be a big disruption, in the marketplace. So
Yep.
so the forecast basically in the big picture, I think you know, we're going to be at 0 to -1% GDP, absent of any, you know, outside influence. I mean, the war is kind of making things happen a little bit, but not as much as the media tries to make it out. Yeah, everybody's going on with life, so that war's not here. It's over there. Yes, it's affecting gas prices a little bit, but not horribly at the end of the day. And so I think there's going to be stable demand. Here's the reason why the home services sector is going to have a little extra stability. Interest rates are not coming down anytime soon. The only thing that I can conceive of that would bring interest rates down for to create more home sales of existing homes is the government have to issue a loan program, and they don't seem to have an appetite for that. So unless they do that, interest rates are going to stay up. Still, massive, massive amounts of home mortgages are at 3% or less. So
Mhm.
people aren't going to buy a new house.
Nope.
They have an insatiable desire to fix up the house that they have. This is a big advantage for the outdoor landscape people because you don't want the people buying existing homes because they are short of budget to do landscaping projects when they buy a new home and trade up. They have more outdoor landscape budget if they're fixing up the house that they're already in in
Mhm.
in that process, and they're more stable. There's more access to them. Now you're still having to, if you take the consumer marketplace, the bottom 60% of the taxpayers, wage earners, they don't have any extra money. So stay away from that. That's not your market. Learn how to spot those people, and the top 40%, more likely the top 20% of the wage earners. That's your target market to do projects. one of the trends that we're seeing in all of the home remodeling, outdoor services, any projects of any size, people are using AI tools to do quick get in the market price quotes. It's not the final quote, but you're
Mm,
using it as using AI pricing tools to make sure, hey, here's what you told me. I ran it through my quick pricing tool to kind of get in the range of what we think it's going to be. Hey, this is going to be $30,000. I mean, is that what you're thinking, or and you probably had some discussions already with the customer. They're thinking 15,000, and what they're wanting is 30.
yep.
And that that early pricing tool does two things. Number one, it gets you into a market value discussion, not time and materials.
Yes.
And if you bill on time and materials, as we say, time and materials or billing hourly, same difference. You're giving away your expertise and you're charging for your ignorance.
Hmm.
And
I like
so
that.
so yeah,
Yeah.
and you know this from being in the industry so long, the good companies that can give fixed price quotes and perform to that quote, they're making the most profit. The
Yep.
companies that don't do a good job on quoting, don't do a good job of managing to the quote. And when I say manage to the quote, you don't win unless you beat the quote. If you meet the quote, you've lost. You've underperformed.
Hmm.
So realistically, the companies that consistently are top level profitability in your industry are the companies that give hard quotes of a market value. They do good work. They do it right the first time and have very little to no callbacks, and they get done under budget.
Yeah.
But meeting budget is a loss in
Yeah.
that process.
I love that you bring that up, Greg, because it's something that we teach in the Core 10 book and also in our classes, the idea that if we need to talk about budget early in our relationship with our customer, we need to make sure that we're playing the right game, the same game on the right field, right? So
Absolutely.
it's very important. And I know for contractors, that's a hard conversation to have. That just there's a lot of uneasiness around it. They're afraid they'll shoot high or low or whatever it might be, or they just don't know. And the problem is that they line themselves up for, walking on a landmine later when they don't talk about it. And eventually the design comes out of proposal and it's a big shocker. They thought 15, you've
Yeah.
said 30, not going to work. Right. So having that conversation early, and that's so important, listeners, to be able to have that conversation effectively and accurately early, because you're setting an expectation for this entire
Yeah.
relationship, whether it can move forward or not.
Well, and here's the thing. If your first step of quoting a project is putting all the details in your pricing spreadsheet, you're never going to charge the market value. You mentally can't get up to the market value. You have to use, and I think the AI quick pricing tools, because you're throwing elements into the pricing tool. You're not
Mm,
giving it, hard specifics. I like that. It helps people get to a market number. But the best contractors, they're gonna have a they're gonna have a discussion with the homeowner. They're gonna wet their thumb, stick it up, and get the windage. They go,
yep.
hell, that's gonna be $75,000 job.
Yep.
And when you do the takeoff, it's the
Yeah.
takeoff is gonna say 65.
Mm,
But the mark, because you are the best operator in the industry, you're giving away your expertise because the other person takes more labor, wastes more materials, value engineer how to get it done with the least amount of cost and the least amount of time. Time is cost too.
yep. Yep. Yep.
And so that's really where I see, we work really hard with getting people, hey, write down the market price somewhere, put it in your spreadsheet before you do the hard takeoff. And then you do the takeoff. That's the great second step. Absolutely. But it's not the
I love
first
it.
step.
I love
Yeah.
that. No, it's definitely true. Now, you mentioned before about the best businesses, the ones that are in that upper 40, but serving the upper 40%, and the ones that are going to stand out now because of them being the best business. What are they investing in? How would you define best business? What are they investing in right now? What is the best thing for, especially home service companies? What makes the most sense right now?
Well, I mean, I think, you know, I, I think they're focused on doing a better job of scheduling resources than the person that just takes what comes.
Hmm.
And so it's a concept that we learned from the dental industry where if you go to a dentist, and get your teeth cleaned, I mean, teeth cleaning, yeah, your teeth needs to be cleaned, but it's just a mining for high value opportunities, because,
Literally,
yeah,
they're
and
drilling.
and and people don't realize this, but dentists leave gaps in their calendar for high value procedures that are found with short notice.
Mm,
And so they don't release those gaps until 24, 48 hours, right before, okay, well, we haven't run across a root canal or run across
mm,
cosmetic dentistry. Yeah. And then they'll fill it in. And so when they do your hygiene appointment, if you need a filling, a couple of weeks out, it's not urgent. If you need cosmetic dentistry or root canal, it says, hey, we got an opening this afternoon at 2 o'clock. If you want to stay around, we can knock that out.
mhm,
And they don't want to let you get out of the chair without making a commitment of very near time, getting that high value appointment in. And so I really think the best businesses do not 100%, even though they're busy, slammed to the wall, they're they're scheduling, leaving gaps for weather, other delays. And then here's here's well, the first key in outdoor, work: get out of the yard quickly in the morning and play through the whistle in the evening. I
mm,
mean, I cannot stress how those two elements will add 50% more to your bottom line if you just can create that work culture. But the second piece that puts you in the upper category is the people that are good at pulling projects from the future to the present when a gap occurs and you get blocked on a job. Okay, well, what can I slide into that slot? Because
mhm.
actually, you make the customer happy when you speed up the job.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get to that 2 days earlier. That's a win for
Mhm.
everybody. But how many times does your work crews find a way to kind of take a couple hours off on your pay? Yeah, it's too hard to kind of start. I mean, you get all of the excuses. No, I
Yeah.
can make progress. I can do something useful, to add value, and move that project along. And so, when you look at those elements, it's the people that manage throughput, because I always talk about, so if you get your pricing right, we talk about the three P's of improving profitability. You got to get your pricing right. That's on you. Then you, are you processes? Do you have the world class processes to get the maximum throughput? Yes, I've sold it, but can I get it past the cash register month
Yeah.
in, week out? And then the third piece is, if I've done the pricing and the processes, I've given my team world class tools to be the best of the best in the market. If we're still not succeeding, I got the wrong people.
Hmm.
And so it's price, process, and then people. And you got to work it in that order, because a lot of people want to, if you've not priced it correctly and you don't have good processes and you want to beat up on your people because they're not getting the things done, well, shame on you. You've not done your homework, that you're required to do as the leader of the business. And you got to do the pricing and process first. And then you can hold your people accountable, to performance.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true because that's what we want to do. We want to blame the people. They're not fast enough or whatever it might be like, and they don't get it. They're not educated enough to get this done quickly. I could do it faster. That's why I'm always going to be stuck in the field as the owner. Like that's the rhetoric that goes on. And
Yeah.
oftentimes we forget to look as owners, we forget to look at, well, maybe I'm not giving them what they need. Maybe I didn't price it right. I know my brother and I used to go back and forth. I would price it and he would build it. I'd be like, yeah, it'd take about 100 hours to build it. He looks at me, he goes, in what world can I build this in 100 hours? Like in the office, I'm thinking like, well, why not? You did the last one. Yeah, but have you considered all of these other parts of the project? Like we have less access here. It's going to be muddy. It rained the
Mhm.
entire time, like all of this stuff. So we
All
had
that
to work
matters.
together a lot more and be like, all right, so what do you think it'll take? And if you give a field guy that question, they're going to be like
Yeah,
1,000 hours. It'll be nice and easy, but we can't sell it at 1,000 hours, right?
that's
We can
right.
only
That's
sell it at
right.
100, 150 maybe. So but that's more back to tools now and process. How do
Yeah.
we make that happen? How can we bridge over the gap of, in this case, poor access and muddy conditions?
Mhm.
We need to figure that out.
Yeah, I always say that, the sale, I want to hold salespeople accountable to contribution margin, which is revenue minus COGS minus labor. I don't care
Mm,
about revenue. I care about contribution margin.
Yep.
and they'll squeal, says, I don't have anything to do with that. Yeah, you do. Go sell things that we're good at.
Yeah.
That's what I want you to
Exactly.
do. Now,
Yep.
conversely, I want the direct labor people to love on the salespeople, because if they don't sell, you don't eat.
Yep.
So
That's
you
the
you,
truth.
you need each other.
Yeah.
And so
It's
let's
so
have
true.
some of that communication like you're talking about. That's so
Yep.
critical.
It is, and not blame each other. Like my brother and I, we would blame each other for a while. And I'm like, well, that's not getting us anywhere. It's just not
Yeah,
working. So let's go back to
not good.
process and let's go back to the pricing side of things and figure out where the mistakes are being made or what you need to improve or what I need to improve. And in
Yeah,
that conversation, we were able to do that. But you bring up a really good point, Greg, when it comes to, trying to be a jack of all trades, and you can only outfit your company with so many tools and so much
yeah,
skill set within your people, right? So if
yeah.
you're like, I'm hungry, my mouth is empty right now, my pipeline is thin, it's April right now, and I don't know what we're gonna do. Like, and you start taking on things like, I don't normally do drainage, but I'm just taking on drainage work, and your guys never did drainage before. Now you're out there holding their hand and you're not efficient with it and you don't know how to bid it. Like, this is really where the
Mhm.
issue comes in, where you still like, well, my guys are
Yeah,
busy. Is that success? Is your guys
yeah,
not sitting home? Well, your business is
yeah.
bleeding money because you're not
Busy
efficient.
is not success.
No, it is
But I
not.
will say, so two elements to what you just said that I want to
Mhm,
accentuate. Number one is, don't fall in love with your backlog.
mhm,
And so when your backlog gets a little thin, people slow down the current performance because they fear running out of a backlog. I'm
yep,
telling you, don't fear it. Run through it. You know, run out of work and send everybody home with pay on Friday if you have to, because it will create urgency to win that next project. Yeah, but I see this is just a natural behavioral instinct to slow down long before you've run through your full backlog. And I got news for you. I mean, there's going to be demand throughout the summer. That period's not what I'm worried about. Because when we work with businesses that have some measure of seasonality, it is never getting them to do better in the busy times that makes profitability go up. It's getting better with not losing as much or making a little more profit in the slow times. And one of the keys is work through the backlog. Don't fear running out of work. And because everybody listening to it has done this, what I'm about to say. You slowed down, you had work that you still needed to do, and then the crush hit. And
mhm,
you were finishing the things that could have been finished 2 months before if you had worked diligently on, and now you're covered up and you can't even get to the good new work, and you're still finishing the low margin work that you took on to cover overhead and make a little pipsqueak of a profit in that. And it's like, stop it, just work through, get done. It'll happen. And then creating availability always opens up. So when you're looking for the unique extra projects, like if you're thin, you don't have everybody fully scheduled, look for the emergency work, the time sensitive work, because the time sensitive work is not price sensitive. And we work with a lot of our contractors to really have a supreme focus for the small, time sensitive but not profit sensitive jobs. And you
mhm,
you can make as much on a $300,000 job that's time sensitive as you can on $1 million job that's competitively bid. And
yep,
it's just mind blowing when you start to look at them that way.
yep,
And I really like accentuating, being known for the go-to. Hey, and this is the reason why you leave gaps in your schedule. Hey, I can work that schedule around to take care of that emergency job that I make a killing on.
yep, yep. No, it's so true, and you have the leverage of time, right? In that
Mm.
case, because if it is, and I think about it in our industry with landscaping, outdoor living, and hardscaping, like where do we come into emergencies? Most of this stuff is nice to have stuff, right? It's not like we're electricians and the
Mm.
power went out, or HVAC and we don't have heat or air conditioning. Like that's some big leverage there, right? You're not comfortable.
But see, I'm telling you, there's emergency landscape work all the time. You just hadn't been trained to look for it.
What should we be looking for, Greg? I love this conversation. So tell me what we should be looking for.
I mean, number one is storms.
Yeah.
So it's storm damage,
Mhm.
and all yeah, all your listeners live in areas that I mean, running water is one of the most damaging things that exist in landscape. And so that's really the kind of thing that you want to be clued into. Secondarily, though, is other types of projects that create landscaping nightmares, utility work that that goes on, other types of
Mm,
contractors or things that happen. And so once again, it's like I've been telling people to do this, in terms of getting prepared for robotics. Spend the next 2 weeks tuning your eyes to looking at the world around you and asking yourself this question of everybody that you look at: can that job be done by a robot in reasonable near future? And you'd be shocked at how many jobs that can be. I mean, it is shocking.
yeah.
And this is the same kind of thing. Tune your eyes to driving around in your normal course of things and look for people enduring a bad landscaping situation that if somebody was available and willing to go fix that like that, put sod down, take care of reworking, the dirt, and those kind of things. You'll make an outsized margin, on a quick little job. You'll make more money on a third of the revenue if you would for just a traditional competitively priced job.
I love that. That's good. It's all about awareness, right? And starting to look
That's
through with
right.
different
Exactly.
eyes. And that's some great guys. I hope you're taking notes here. This is good stuff. It might not sound sexy like big, fancy outdoor living projects, but maybe it's drainage, maybe it's replantings, maybe it's sod to his point, and you can make a massive margin on that stuff because you can do it now.
So it goes and with a market that is not explosively growing, you've got to really hone in on what we call the simple numbers, business strategy. Takes three things to be successful in business from a business strategy in any industry. Figure out what the market needs, find a way to do it profitably, and then I tell everybody about it. And
Mhm.
so once you tune your eyes, it's not about selling the market what you do. Your job as a business is to figure out what the market needs.
Mhm.
And when you are selling into a need, it is a much easier sale than trying to convince somebody to buy something that they're on the fence about.
Amen. Amen to that all day long.
Yeah.
Oh, Greg. So what should we be doing right now to prepare for the rest of 26, as contractors? What should we be thinking about here as we roll out the year?
Well, I would say I'd say you got a 30 to 60-day window to kick it into high gear of production to get the existing backlog and projects cleared out for the high season. So you don't wait for the high season demand to hit. You really got to get your crews to clear that backlog. And even if we run out of backlog before the sales catch up, don't worry about it. It's going to happen. And then, you really just have to look at your marketplace and say, are we effectively reaching out to that? More importantly, the top 20% of the wage earners is our best market. They're least price sensitive, and they're going to have a bigger budget, to do. But the one of the challenges though, and I think, what you do, helps everybody. But I mean, we're saying, marketing is in just a state of a hot mess. What used to work is not working, anymore. Google AdWords are more expensive than ever and producing the least results ever. And so you probably got to re-dig in to come up with what marketing strategy. You got to refresh your marketing strategy in the current marketing tools environment to say, okay, how do I get out there and get known? And even though I'm busy, you're going to have a back end lull if you don't get actively out there and push the market, and get leads coming to you. I mean, yeah, everybody, kind of turns down their marketing, during the busy time because we're busy. I mean, I don't need,
Yeah.
I don't need more leads. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you just need to keep marketing. More importantly, you got to kind of reset and reanalyze what works in the current, and just don't keep spending money on marketing that's really not working. Save that powder and do something different.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And be watching your KPIs and see if you're actually getting a return, if it's actually working or if it's just the way you've
Yeah,
always done it. Right. And to
yeah.
be really challenged and changed as the world changes. So, oh, Greg, I appreciate you always coming in here and giving us a crystal ball look. And I'm excited for our next episode here. Listeners, we're going to jump into Greg's forecast for the next 3 to 6 months here, economically and for our industry, and get a sense of what we should be preparing for. So, Greg, thank you for coming on. And guys, I look forward to chatting next week.